Also, our number one priority is safety. That's what we're focused on. But in the meantime, we're commercializing low Earth orbit. Right now we have a $350 billion space economy in low Earth orbit.
That's true. That's a big number.
It is a
billion,
big number.
350 billion.
And people are talking in the future at going to over $1 trillion. And so it is a big starting the dawn of a new space age.
And quickly, I think you were telling me that this also increases our ability to do science on the International Space Station, right?
You know, with these 4 great astronauts, and Jim Bridenstine and I met with them yesterday, and they want to fly, you know, and we want to make sure they fly safely. But with that, when they get to the space station, we've got 1 astronaut there right now. It's going to increase our research efforts up there by 300%. And we really believe that that demand is going to grow. And the hope is ultimately that we'll have commercial space stations that are built by our space industry in the United States. And so, because there's so much research to be done.
All right, well, very good. Illuminating information about the licensing of spaceports. Appreciate your efforts and all your work in getting these government agencies to work together and talk to each other and come together with some consensus there. That's good stuff.
It's my honor, but this is about safety, and we're going to keep doing it.
Excellent. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Jim. Jim Morhart, Deputy Administrator with NASA, and we are now at T-minus 1 hour and 28 minutes. We'll toss it back to John I in Hawthorne, California. John? Well, we'll go to Marie, right here across the way at KSC.
All right, thanks to either. We are standing by for a post-ingress briefing to the crew.
Dragon SpaceX for side hatch leak check.
And go ahead for the side hatch leak check.
Okay, good news. The leak check has passed, and we saw.
Yippee! It's passed.
Dry dress, so it looks good.
That's great news, SpaceX.
So what you just heard there was the core team briefing the crew, letting them know that the leak check passed, and we're going to be moving along in the timeline here. They're now attaching the final exterior cover there on the side hatch.
And they mentioned that the levels that they checked were consistent with dry dress. They were referring to the rehearsal that was conducted Thursday. So just a couple of days ago, they went through this process. It's called the dry dress rehearsal because they do everything except fuel up the rocket and, of course, launch. So when they did the checks that day, obviously things were nominal. The first time they closed the side hatch, they noticed a drop in pressure when they did the leak check. So they opened the hatch back up, discovered some foreign object debris, or what we call FOD, cleared that out. We don't know what exactly it was yet. We might hear about that in the post-ingress briefing. But they closed the hatch back up, did another leak check. Everything looks nominal, and that's what we just heard confirmation of. So that they said that was great news. So it sounds like we're getting back on track now.
So it looked like that closeout team member just took the final closeout photo there, or one of final, and we are moving along.
Wow.
If you look closely on the right-hand side, you might be able to make out some signatures there on the wall of our white room.
And certainly the astronauts sitting inside the Crew Dragon capsule right now appreciate the attention to detail of this pad closeout team.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Marie, it's interesting. I think one of the things we definitely appreciate is that the team that works here with us on these spacecraft absolutely believe that the care and feeding of those spacecraft is their responsibility. And we know that. You can tell as they're working with you and hear them outside the hatch and on the radio as well.
Now, Kate, can you explain what we're seeing now?
It's a little difficult.
Is he going to go and take a ride on top? Yeah. I think I'll get a little bit cold.
I'm sorry, I can't tell what they're doing.
It is a little off you know, it's above the frame of the camera view that we can see.
Are there things they have to remove before the seal with the hatch can pull back?
No, there's nothing necessarily attached to the capsule, but I would like to point out, again, we're not only taking into consideration the safety of the crew, but the safety of our team members as well. You can see the straps there. I believe what they're doing is they're basically allowing, so there's a mechanism there on the crew access arm. There's kind of like an airplane door. It doesn't, you know, the metallic pieces don't go anywhere near close to the airplane, but there's a little bit of a seal there to try and control the environment. Again, dealing with humidity and rain and bugs here in Florida, trying to keep all of that out and keep the environment stable and under control there. But yeah, so they are now preparing to move all of that fixturing away, and they are leaning out over towards essentially the side of the rocket. So we have those wires in place for fall protection.
So we should be hearing any time now a post-ingress briefing. That's what we're expecting for the crew inside to kind of get a recap. Okay, so maybe a couple more minutes before we hear that briefing. So we're going to move on temporarily. We've made mention of the first crew to launch in Crew Dragon a little earlier this year. And you may remember them as the Space Dads, as they are affectionately known by the NASA and SpaceX teams who work with them. We watched them lift off from this very spot back in May, ending a 9-year gap in human spaceflight from American soil. And we want to honor the courage of NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley with a look at their historic Demo 2 test flight.
What a beat.
Good morning. Welcome aboard. Dragon, SpaceX, ComCheck, ground stations.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
On behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for flying the Falcon 9 today. We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
We would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour. We do have a friend on board with us, Trimmer, the Apatosaurus. I think I was requested to do a backflip. Good night, Megan and Theo. And Karen and Jack.
Yeah, I watched that live. That was
MD
brilliant.
Houston flight. Houston is go for undocking and departure.
Dragon is committed to undock.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground. We are ready for the systems brief.
Copy. As stated, Dragon's in a healthy state. We are proceeding toward the primary landing site, and your timeline is current. Visual, 2 drogues out.
200 meters. We are braced for splashdown.
Copy, brace for splashdown. Endeavour, on behalf of the SpaceX and NASA teams, welcome back to planet Earth, and thanks for flying SpaceX.
It's a humbling experience to be a part of what was accomplished.
It's great to see how excited everybody was. We hope it brings a little bit of brightness to a pretty tough 2020.
Wow. I don't know about you guys, but that gives me goosebumps watching that recap.
Yeah, absolutely.
My family and I made a point to drive over here
So
to the East
good.
Coast to watch launch from just down the road in Cocoa Beach with our dear friends, the Honeycutts, a name that's familiar to the Kennedy Space Center family. And I'll tell you, it was a real joy to watch Bob and Doug in space and then to have them safely back on the planet with us. And now, special treat, we're going to hear from my dear friends and fellow bugs, AKA the Space Dads themselves. Daryl is standing by to talk with them. Daryl.
That's right, Nicole. We have Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, the Space Dads, with us live from Houston, Texas. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on yet another historic day here at the Kennedy Space Center.
Hey, Daryl, how are you?
Howdy, Daryl.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you. So you know this moment. You remember it, I'm sure, well, when we came to this moment in time where the capsule, the door was closed. Tell us what you guys were thinking in this moment as we see astronauts, the 4 Crew 1 astronauts getting ready to fly.
Well, you're just thinking about the mission ahead, what you need to do to get through the next hour or two of the timeline. I mean, you know, you don't have a lot of time to think about a lot else. You've kind of wrapped everything up before you walked down and walked out, got to the pad. So we're just going through the checks with the teams, following along and doing the things that we need to do.
You just saw that video that was put together about the whole mission that you guys did. Is there anything that, as you watch that, stands out to you as, you know, that was my favorite moment?
I think for both of us, our favorite moment was after splashdown, when we were able to get the hatch opened and climb out of the vehicle. As you might imagine, as you embark on a test flight, you've got to have a lot of things go very smoothly, and you got to get them all done and get to the final test point that's out there, which was the splashdown and coming home. And so I think there's a little bit of relief, but kind of a big, let our emotions come out, I think, at that point, after being really focused on, you know, the mission at hand all the way up to that point.
And Doug, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with Bob. You know, we invested 5 years with the teams. We went out to Hawthorne almost every week the last 2 years that before we launched. And so, you know, just a culmination of an incredible amount of work by so many people, and to be just a small part of it, and then to complete the mission successfully and have the type of mission that we had, where we were able to do a whole bunch of work on board Space Station, including 4 spacewalks, and then complete the test flight of Crew Dragon and get it ready for this crew. It just, you know, it's indescribable to be a part of that type of an event. And, you know, we're just excited to see what's going to happen, hopefully here in just an hour or two.
Yeah, just an hour and 16 minutes until launch. And so I want to know about a conversation that you guys had. You had some important conversations with this crew. What did you tell them? What advice did you give them?
Well, Doug and I got a chance to sit down with the Crew 1 folks, just like everybody else is these days, over across a video conference soon after we returned. And we tried to give them the benefit of the experiences that we had and some suggestions on some things that might help their mission go a little bit smoother. But I think the biggest message that we passed on to them was that there was a good ship here, and it did a great job getting us to Space Station and back, and they should have confidence in the team as they go off and execute their mission. And so there are things that can be improved after our test flight, and they took a lot of those minor things to heart. But overall, we just really passed on just a lot of confidence in the vehicle, and that, you know, that goes a long way for a team that's got a lot of things to do as they lead up to the mission that they're about to launch on today, and not a lot of time if you look at how quickly the vehicle got assessed and changes were made in preparation for this mission. It was just a short couple months ago, I think, at this point, since we came home, and we just really wanted to pass our confidence on to them as they got ready for their mission.
And Commander Hopkins, in fact, said that he appreciated Doug Hurley telling him that when he was commanding the landing, that he was ahead of the spacecraft. Describe what that means and why you think that helped him.
Well, it was a little bit drawn on my experience as a shuttle pilot. My first flight, I just felt like I had to work really hard to keep up with the shuttle as we were re-entering. And, it's a little bit of how you operate on orbit, and then the quickness of the events that you deal with on re-entry. Everything happens pretty fast. So just mentally knowing that was coming, I tried to enforce that with Hopper and just say, hey, look, it's, you're going to be in orbit for a while. Your brain slows down in a sense. But then when re-entry occurs, those events really happen fast. From the time that you separate from the trunk all the way to splashdown happens, it seems like in an instant. So we talked a lot about that, and I just wanted him to be calibrated and be ahead of Dragon as best he could, and then communicate that obviously to his crew. He's got a great crew, and they'll be ready for it when they come back in next spring.
And in fact, he said that as a result of that statement, that he studied hard because he knew he had to be ahead of it in order for when these events happen to be ready for them as they come. Bob Behnken, Doug Hurley, astronauts with NASA, and the crew of Demo 1. We appreciate you guys. Demo 2, sorry. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much. And enjoy the launch. And now we're going to send it back to the desk.
All right, thank you, Daryl. It is T-minus 1 hour and 13 minutes, and we understand John I has been listening in, has some more information to pass along on what's been going on, what information the crew has. So, John I, let's hand it over to you in Hawthorne.
Thank you, Marie. It's, as she said, T-minus 1 hour, 13 minutes, 24 seconds. The good news is we are on the timeline. While we were interviewing Bob and Doug, we did hear some discussion with the crew over the SpaceX to Dragon CrewNet. They gave them an update on a couple of issues that we've been working. The one of great interest right now has been the hatch close. They summarized that, as you saw on the monitors, we did reopen the hatch. They found a small piece of FOD, and they also worked on the seal around the hatch. They also did add a little bit of lubricant. They closed the hatch and then reran the 5-minute leak check, and they got a good result. So the crew heard that, and they are supportive, and that issue is now resolved and behind us. The other issue that we've been working that they briefed the crew on is just above the first stage where the propellant tanks and the inner stage meet. You can't see on your monitor there, but there are some weep holes, and what we'd seen is some water, I think, from maybe rain that has gotten in there has drained out, and that gave a little bit of discoloration. They wanted to make sure that might not be something else like the RP1 fuel that's on board the rocket. So they've done some review of data. They see no issues with the fuel system, or in this case, it's the grid fin system that's in proximity in that area. They believe it's water. They briefed the crew, and again, that issue is now closed out. So coming up on just inside T-minus 1 hour and 12 minutes, we've closed up our couple issues, and as we also heard just a couple minutes ago, the closeout team has left the crew access arm, so we're looking good on schedule. So Jesse, everything in the very busy last 20 minutes or so has come together and closed out. What else has been going on?
That is awesome news, John. Thank you for that very detailed update. We're just 1 hour and 11 minutes from launch, and it just keeps getting more and more exciting, especially with those updates coming in. Since arriving at the spacecraft, the crew were helped by our closeout engineers to get into their seats, attach their suits to special umbilicals that provide breathing air and a communication link to Dragon systems. They conducted leak checks which were successful, and communications checks with the core here in Hawthorne, which is the person who will speak to them directly throughout the mission, as well as the launch director in Florida. This is